Right, so news has come through of an astonishing first by Hezbollah, which once again raises questions about the efficacy these days of Israel's air defences. But despite having broken new ground in Lebanon's offensive against Israel by, for the first time ever, striking southern Israel, the first time Hezbollah have ever succeeded in penetrating so deep into Israeli territory, but not only that, they've managed a direct strike on an Israeli naval base whilst they were at it. This in and of itself is worthy of discussion and coverage. Where were the Israeli defences? Was the IDF caught completely unawares? But actually it is but one action in a long list of them this week, which includes a landmark target having been reached fighting Israel within their own borders as well, all in the face of even more rocket fire and the razing of homes and apartment buildings in Beirut, as Israel set about attempting to make the Lebanese capital resemble Gaza as fast as possible. The fighting versus Lebanon is far from going all Israel's way, and where they are so focused on offensives, their defences are collapsing. Right, so let's start with the news today that there has been from Lebanon, awful news from Lebanon as I began writing this actually, news that once again journalists having been deliberately targeted. This time in Lebanon as 3 of them were reportedly killed a month ago to the day, 25th of October, deliberately targeted and targeted with US munitions at that, constituting a war crime now against Lebanon by Israel, to add to the already long list of those Israel have already racked up, including those in Gaza. All 3 were reportedly killed in their sleep, so in no way can this be construed as collateral damage or unintentional. It very much appears to be deliberate and absolutely in need of criminal investigation. Having happened in Lebanon and not occupied Palestinian territory, however, there's every opportunity to do just that, you would imagine. No chance of Israel being able to hide the evidence this time, as they've been accused of doing in Gaza. It is in light of incidents like this, though, that retaliation and the right to defend themselves from Israel cuts through in public opinion. Public opinion of Israel is very low right now. They've brought that on themselves in no uncertain terms. And when they cry foul at every turn and where various world leaders condemn anyone not supporting Israel, fewer and fewer of us do. Equally, that refusal to support Israel is being too often read as support for the likes of Hezbollah or Hamas, of course, which, of course, is prescribed here in the UK. I've got questions about that. I must cover that in a video at some point. But it is fair to say that support for such prescribed organisations and offering support for nation states to defend themselves from attack and protect their innocent civilian population are not the same thing. Nevertheless, I must turn to Hezbollah and acknowledge the fact that they have this week been giving Israel a god almighty thumping, including for the first time ever successfully striking southern Israel. The norm used to be Hezbollah rockets got intercepted by the Iron Dome or David Sling or Arrow, the numerous different air defence systems that Israel employ, now using that US THAAD defence system, of course, to patch holes in those air defences as they have clearly become less and less successful in repelling enemy fire over time. And we've seen this progress through the course of Israel's genocide in Gaza, Hezbollah striking Israel in support of the Gazan people as they have been since pretty much the day after the events of the night of October 7th. Israel, early days, when Hezbollah started to attack them, they had to evacuate the north. They had to bring people further south because it was no longer safe for them in the north. And we saw Hezbollah drones and rocket strikes successfully deplete and destroy Iron Dome interceptor missiles and batteries across the north, leading to success further and further south. Hezbollah managed to hit the port city of Haifa in northern Israel, didn't they? It's a good distance south of the Lebanese border, 85 miles away. They managed to strike Caesarea, the holiday resort where Benjamin Netanyahu has a holiday home, which is a bit further south again, about 110 miles from the Lebanon border. Tel Aviv itself has been hit. That's about 140 miles south of the Lebanese border, and we're now halfway down the country of Israel. All of this unprecedented in the distances Hezbollah can now fire ordnance and, crucially, find its mark. The air defences are clearly stuffed. And this latest example, striking southern Israel for the very first time, is astonishing not just because Hezbollah managed to penetrate that far, but because they found their target as well, and it was one hell of a target. Yesterday, Hezbollah fired between 340 and 250 rockets into Israel, depending on which source you check out. But what they all agree on was the fact that they successfully hit the Israeli naval base at Ashdod, over 170 miles south of the Lebanese border. It's so far south, Ashdod is actually only 24 miles north of the Gaza border. Hezbollah are almost capable of reaching Gaza itself, the north of which is being ethnically cleansed, as we know, and being taken over by Israel. So we're now in the realms of it no longer being beyond possibility that Hezbollah could now strike in Gaza and target Israeli forces there. Worse for Israel, they apparently never saw it coming. They were caught completely unawares, the IDF caught napping, asleep at the wheel, as it were. Also struck at the same time were various targets in Tel Aviv, Haifa, Acre, Nahariya and other places as well, including other military bases and intelligence agency offices. It is being regarded as the largest single strike by Hezbollah on Israel yet, and coming hot on the heels of Israel having targeted residential areas of Beirut the previous day, is an escalation that says Lebanon are not going to take such barbarism on the chin, and there will be consequences for Israel as a result. Here's an excerpt from Al Jazeera's coverage of this. Hezbollah say it targeted the Ashdod naval base in southern Israel for the first time, adding that it conducted an operation against a military target in Tel Aviv using advanced missiles and strike drones. The Israeli military reported air raid sirens in central and northern areas, including the Tel Aviv suburbs. The military said it intercepted a number of the projectiles fired at northern Israel and added that 250 projectiles had been fired from Lebanon. Later on, Israeli army radio reported that 340 missiles had launched from Lebanon. The attacks wounded at least 11 people, including a man in a moderate to serious condition, according to medical agencies. They come a day after Israel killed at least 29 people in a strike in central Beirut. At least 66 others were wounded, according to Lebanon's Ministry of Public Health. Lebanon's caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati condemned it as an assault on US-led ceasefire efforts, calling it a direct bloody message rejecting all efforts and ongoing contacts to end the war. Israel is again writing in Lebanese blood a brazen rejection of the solution that is being discussed, a statement from his office read. My only issue with Najib Mikati's assessment there is that if the US were truly in the driver's seat here and really interested in an end to war between Lebanon and Israel, then they'd stop Israel using their armaments in that country. It wouldn't even require the cessation of arms sales on their part, as so many people around the world absolutely do want, and quite right so. Just a ban on using them in Lebanon. But they can't even seem to do that. And as a result, through the deaths of those 3 journalists, they may be complicit in that war crime themselves. It isn't like Israel are getting anywhere in southern Lebanon still either, though, as Hezbollah this week celebrated a bit of a milestone there as well. I've spoken in a previous video regarding the tactics used by Hezbollah to deal with the dreaded Israeli Merkava tanks. Tanks that are far less dreaded in mountainous southern Israel because they get stuck. They get trapped. They can't move quite like they'd like to. And Hezbollah are armed with tank-busting ordnance that has been adapted to get around the very latest anti-tank defences that Israel have put on show. In fact, so successful have Hezbollah been in taking on these tanks that this week they celebrated the destruction of their 50th tank since Israel invaded southern Lebanon less than 8 weeks ago. That's an average of almost 1 tank a day. Now, they reached that target last Friday, but just yesterday they destroyed another 6 tanks alone. This is the Hezbollah it's worth reminding people that Israel said it had defeated. If anything, the assassination of its former leader Hassan Nasrallah has basically let them off the leash somewhat. But equally, it can be said that as Israel yet again targets civilians, that invites escalation. And what it has done is expose further the weaknesses of Israel's own air defences. Where before commentators, myself included, thought shortages of interceptor missiles meant the north of Israel was being left to Hezbollah somewhat to hit and continue to hit it as they have, in favour of protecting larger urban and military installations, that doesn't any longer appear to be the case either. So just how much trouble is Israel in defence-wise now? That despite this new US THAAD system they've got, they're still wide open to the point that Lebanese forces can now almost reach Gaza through missile and drone strikes. The narrative is one of the IDF being caught with their pants down. But is that a better excuse to make than admitting they've simply run out of, or are running out of, air defence capability? If I was an Israeli, that's the question I would be asking myself right now. Am I being protected anymore? I'm not so sure you are. Of course, the events leading up to this escalation by Hezbollah now can be traced back to the assassination of Hassan Nasrallah in Beirut, an assassination it was widely reported that was ordered by Netanyahu from the US, done on the day he went there to address Congress, no less. I considered the possibility of that event triggering a wider war then, and it very much appears to now be happening, doesn't it? Get the detail of that story in this video recommendation here as your suggested next watch, and I will hopefully catch you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.